before, as has been introduced, I'm working currently in the European Center of Excellence for Countering Hybrid Threats. And I will try to give a picture how we see cyber threats as main enabler principally of hybrid threats, and what's the difference and how to counter them, of course. Yeah, some short words about hybrid COE. We have been inaugurated in 2017 by a very, very interesting joint framework between the European Union and the NATO. We have currently 31 member states. The last member state joined us was Malta. We are currently missing from the possible member states only Albania, Malta, and North Macedonia. We are 42 people working currently in the Secretariat here in Helsinki. Half of them about are international. We have an annual budget of about from around 4 million euro, and I think this is very interesting. We are, because of this joint framework between EU and NATO, we are the first, and until now, the only European Union and NATO entity. Our objectives are relatively easy to describe: increase awareness of hybrid threats. What are they? Share experiences from our member states, from NATO, from the European Union, and best practices. Facilitate networking. We have a network from around 2,000 people in Europe and in Northern America. And to lead the discussion about hybrid threats. The environment, the threat environment drivers. How does hybrid threats are coming from? Yeah, it's of course the globalization and the changes in the world order. We are dealing with an increasing strategic competition between the West, the democratic states, Russia and China. We have the problem that our laws says exactly what are conflicts and warfare, and it's sometimes hard for us to answering hybrid threats. New technologies play really a very special role.
Which one?
And also COVID-19.
Joseph?
Yeah?
I'm sorry for interrupting you. I think we lost your presentation.
Okay.
You might share again.
Okay. So where is it? Yeah. Is it now working?
Here we go. I think we are back online here.
Okay. I'm sorry for that.
No problem at all.
Okay, and of course, COVID-19 played a special role during that time, especially during the last 2 years. Yeah. What are we looking for? Conflict and competition we are observing, and the implications for deterrence is for us important. Because we spoke before about new technologies. It's only a short picture of the number of years it took for each product to gain 50 million users. When you look in the past, the airplane needed 68 years, electricity 46 years, TV 22 years, and then we come in the time of computers and internet. Computer needed already 14 years, internet as it 7 years, but it becomes more and more faster. YouTube 3 years, Twitter 9 months, Fortnite, yeah, it's a game for kids or also for young adults, 17 days. And a nightmare for all parents that have little children, TikTok. It's a video sharing platform or video producing platform for young, very young people mainly between 10 and 16 years. It only needed 11 days. What does it mean? It becomes more and more shorter if you have a product, a good product, yeah, to share it. Yeah, this is depending, of course, on the globalization, but mainly on the cyberspace, on the internet. And when we speak about new technologies like the Internet of Things, like robotics, like smart soldiers, intelligent drones, like we see it in the conflict, also not only in the Ukraine, all over the world where are conflicts, yeah. Medical cryonics, artificial intelligence. If you look all these new technologies, they have all their relation to cyber. Whether they are programmed in cyberspace, whether they are based in cyberspace, whether they run in cyberspace, whatever, they all have their relation to cyber. So what does it mean? Cyberspace is something special. Yeah? But what is the threat behind the cyberspace? If you look at this sketch, yeah, from the early 80s, when the first codes where malware has been developed, yeah, we are dealing with an increasing complexity of all these kind of attacks. Only when I think about me, yeah, I studied in the early 90s. I studied computer sciences. My computer language was BASIC and then Symfony. And I programmed my first file infectors, for example. Yeah, I was not bad in that. Yeah, or the first self-replicating codes. Yeah, I was terrorizing my colleagues, my comrades by that. Yeah, but only 10 years later, in 95, and I will not speak about 2000 because my interests skipped and changed. Yeah, I could not read anymore and any kind of virus. And when I look now in 2020, 2022, who is understanding, I cannot anymore, yeah, but who is understanding these kind of attacks? We are dealing with around 100,000 new viruses and Trojans per day. Of course, 99.99% of them are harmless, but the others are not. And we are not only dealing with an increasing complexity, we are dealing also with an increasing degree of cross-linking. Everything is based in internet, at home, in the industry, in the economy, also in the armed forces. And on the other side, we have a decreased understanding of the whole system architecture. Less and less people are understanding what is going on, can influence that everything. And that brings me now to the cyberspace. What are we dealing with, yeah, when we speak about cyber threats? Cybercrime, cyber espionage, then disinformation or black propaganda, terrorist use of the internet, and of course, cyber warfare at the end. I will give you some examples what I'm speaking about. Cybercrime like ransomware. Very good example, the first huge blackmail campaign in COVID-19 pandemic was Fresenius, Germany-based private hospital operator, also financing COVID-19 research, etc., etc. It's Europe's largest private hospital operator, has been hit in a ransomware cyber attack on its technology systems. And the problem was they had to pay. They could not solve it by themselves. When we speak about cyber espionage, also during COVID-19, with continued attacks against COVID-19 vaccine research, and we are observing a dramatic rise of cyber attacks to steal vaccine research. When we speak about disinformation, I must touch the trolls, the so-called trolls or deepfakes. Yeah, we can, especially during COVID-19, we saw mis and disinformation everywhere. For example, what are the Russian trolls doing? They accuse Russophobia, of course. Yeah, they are writing at least hundreds or thousands of pro-Putin comments all over the world in all the social media, using proxy server that they are deniable, and the goal is against EU and NATO and their member states. Where do these trolls are living? Some part of them, the Russian ones, many of them living in Olginio. It's a district of St. Petersburg, some thousands. Estimates are between 10 and 30,000. And also in China, in Sangong, it's a district of Guangzhou, around 1,000 kilometers from Beijing. How many are they? Nobody knows. Estimates are between 500 and 800,000. So this is deep fakes and the trolls. And what is the result from them? For example, from the Russian trolls, fake news or top fakes, yeah. And I only put it, and if you go on the homepage I showed you here, EU versus Disinfo, this is an EU entity is counting all the disinformation published within Russia. And what learned Russia, for example, only about Finland in 2021. Finland was the top news, is practicing juvenile terror. We, the Hybrid Center of Excellence in Helsinki, have a license to kill. The Finns lived better in the Russian Empire than now, and Finland started the Second World War by attacking the Soviet Union. Yeah, and this is also a news. Finnish embassy involved in smuggling arms from Russia to Finland. There are many participants today in this webinar, and if you search or Google your country on this homepage, you will find all the top fakes from Russian trolls against your country on this homepage. Yeah, what does the Russian trolls say about the current crisis or conflict, even civil war in the Ukraine? The pro-Kremlin outlets say that when Europe was united without Russia, it always started a war. And now we started a war again in the Ukraine, but in fact, that's not right. Europe has never started the war in the Ukraine. And if you speak about cyber war, we have a case study from from summer 2020. This cyber war between Israel and Iran was some cyber battles, yeah, between Iran and Israel, lasted until autumn, nearly until winter 2020. Now it's relatively quiet. First, the Iran is being linked to a cyber attack against the Israeli water supply, very successful, unfortunately. For the Israeli, they had at least a week problems with water supplies. And as an answer, Israel fought back in a disruptive cyber attack on Iranian port facilities. They stopped in the Iranian ports transporting oil. All the loading maneuvers, also very successful. So Iran had a problem in bringing their oil for at least 2 weeks. So we saw hack and hack back, etc., etc. We call that a cyber war. Yeah, bringing civilization to its knees in further times, you needed huge armies. Maybe today, you only need some geeks or even very intelligent geeks. So we are confronted with some kind of evolution of warfare. So, and when we speak about hybrid threats, what are we dealing with? Like I said before, this is hybrid propaganda and fake news, then strategic leaks, support and funding of individuals, of institutions, of NGOs for their own goals. Of course, the use of cyber tools, like I said before. Economic leverage is still important. The use of proxies to influence the society or the state. Yeah, asymmetric warfare. So it's under the threshold of observation, under the threshold of normal military-centric warfare. And I will give you also now some examples. Hybrid influencing, what you can do by hybrid influencing. Also in summer 2020, there was some battle between Chinese and Indian troops in Galwan Valley, bashing each other. Around 100 deaths. China warned India short after not to do that anymore, but India, of course, did not remove their troops. And then in October 2020, and more than 1,500 miles away from the Galwan Valley in Mumbai, one of the biggest cities in India, a huge cyber attack. Trains shut down, stock market closed, no electricity anymore, no water supply in a city of 20 million people. Hospitals had to switch to emergency generators, etc., etc. So this was a warning, some kind of warning from China against India. If they don't stop that, if they don't move their troops, they can do something else. This is something what is really interesting to see as a kind of hybrid influencing. And if you speak about hybrid war, for us, the archetypus of hybrid war was Vietnam in '68, where the US made really military-centric warfare, but northern Vietnam and the Viet Cong not. And it was, for us, interesting that the center of gravity shifted from the military battlefield to the home front. And during a TV in the US, 10 years ago, something like that, a US colonel and a colonel from Vietnam sat together. They served at the same time on the same place in Hue in '69. And the US colonel said, but you never defeated us on the battlefield. And then the Vietnamese colonel said, yeah, that may be so, but it was irrelevant because we did not want it to win battles, we wanted to win the war. So the center of gravity shifted from the military battlefield to the home front. But when we speak about hybrid war, we must also look at the counterpart, military-centric warfare, like the war between Great Britain and Argentina on the Falklands, also in the 80s. One country occupied the territory, part of the territory of another land. A country sends its army, the other country sends also its army. We have one decisive battle, one winner. That's it, and the war was over. There's nothing hybrid on it. But when we speak about hybrid war, we also have a case study about the civil war in the Ukraine, of course, currently very important, because there we can see since 2014 a cyber and kinetic war between Russia and the Ukraine. We can, and this is not right, I wrote between Russia and the Ukraine, but that's not right. Russia is not in war. It's a civil war, and that's the reason why everybody knows Russia is involved, but that's the reason why we call it a hybrid war. We can see all information cyber tools in preparation to occupy the Crimea in 2014, cyber attacks against critical infrastructure, and even we can see hacking weapon systems. Yeah, some examples. Like in December 2019, cyber attack against critical infrastructure, electricity, no electricity anymore in Ivano-Frankovsk. 2016, the Ukraine media published that without the NATO, the Ukraine cannot guarantee the security of the nuclear power station. Of course, it was a fake news. Then again, cyber attack against ransomware against financial institutions. And very interesting, especially for military, we can see the manipulation of the Ukraine air defense by hacker attacks and supported by normal, under brackets, electromagnetic attacks. For us, the Ukraine is Russia's test lab for hybrid war, and we can see it especially during that times, currently now. Yeah, keep conflict alive is very important, because then you can try all your hybrid tools and to look they are working or not, what are the answers, etc. This is how we see the environment of a hybrid crisis. In the first phase, in deep peacetime, they are starting already the attacks, but nobody knows that the country or the society is already under attack. From where the attacks are from, and what are the goals. But as long as these attacks are lasting, we come to phase 2, like the Ukraine is already in it. The actor becomes clear, the goals become clear, the goal is very clear, destabilization. Then after this phase, we come also already in the phase of use of the military. Already also the Ukraine is in that phase. We have an armed conflict, we have some kind of asymmetric war, but not yet a conventional war. And of course, the last phase is the negotiation phase. What is important in that sketch, that as long as at the beginning, the actor, the goals are not clear, as long as the attacks are lasting, the actor becomes clear, the goals are becoming clear. Therefore, we have a big project on hybrid CCOE. This is cyber power in hybrid conflict and warfare. The first question is how to counter them by maybe a whole of society and state approach. Are the current, the existing cyber crisis coordination mechanisms usable also against hybrid threats? I think this is also interesting for a CIMIC COE on a civil military basis, of course, and what are the needs from the private sector to the public? The other is cyber lasting, can cyber power break the dominance of the other domains, eventually become the dominant domain, and is a cyber blitzkrieg, a first strike in the cyber domain possible? Can this decide a war, a battle, or even a war? We have already also some answers. Yes, EU and NATO have established good basis, but it's not enough. Situational awareness and effective communication is the challenge. The current crisis management, cyber crisis management mechanisms could be used, but they need much more. They need a really comprehensive whole of state society approach. And cyber blitzkrieg is theoretically already possible, practically not. You still need the boots on the ground, but the growth of new technologies have the capacity to shape the public opinion. And cyber power becomes more dominant. So cyber and hybrid, is it the same? Well, what is the same? The similarity is that the defender have to protect against all possible channels and kinds of attack. But the attacker only has to find one little weak point to attack at the time and place of their choice. And that everything, even very often anonymous. The biggest problem is attribution. Who does what? What's the goal? But cyber attacks are only, like I showed you before, part of hybrid threats. Cyber is a domain recognized by the European Union and the NATO. There is no hybrid domain. This is a big difference. Cyberspace is man-made, hybrid threats very often not. Cyber attacks are tools to achieve goals, they are contestable. Cyber is more than a new technology, it's a domain, but cyberspace is the main enabler for hybrid threats. Therefore, cyber attacks are only part of hybrid threats. How to responding? Resilience and deterrence. We need a comprehensive and integrated approach. We have to adapt our democratic processes and structures to counter hybrid threats, and multilateralization is a key word. The means: be prepared, build up your capabilities, adopt your legislation, and create new ways of communication within your society. Here I put some links for interested people, also the joint framework between the EU and NATO for countering hybrid threats. No questions. I think now I'm at the end, and I hope and I think I'm in time. This picture, I put it as a really hybrid attack. I thought very long it really happened in Australia. during an exercise of the Australian Coast Guard. Unfortunately, I had to know this is a fake. It never happened. It's a fake picture. Nevertheless, it shows really a hybrid attack. It was my pleasure. I'm at the end. Thank you very much.